go into people's homes, we see people on the streets, we become a part of their lives for a short amount of time. We hopefully tell their story in a respectful way.
You work crazy hours, you work on holidays, you work on weekends, you work on nights.
Nothing is ever really routine.
I heard something, I believe they're on the loudspeaker right now.
The moment that it is routine.
To get to, we are hearing
is when it all comes down from under you.
I love getting out there and gathering the story itself. That's the journey.
I am the fly on the wall. I'm gathering everything, and you're basically just seeing it through my eye.
We provide a service, and that service is to tell the story and for the public and for everybody to know what is going on in your city.
Are we going to lose this lake? We're worried about that. We're concerned about that.
It gives me the opportunity to see human emotion at its purest, whether it's tragedy, sadness.
Bexar County Sheriff's Office Deputy K-9 Chucky's end of watch on January 25th at 2009 at 11:04 p.m. Chucky laid down his life for us with courage and valor. We thank you for your dedication, loyalty, and service to the citizens of Bexar County and San Antonio, Texas. It is with great sadness that the San Antonio Fire Department marks the passing of active duty firefighter Gregory Paul Garza. May he rest in eternal power.
We're there for the crime, we're there for the accidents, we're there for the fires. But we're also there for the triumph, the reunions, the victories.
There is a human being in distress.
We have an obligation to let people know what's going on, and not just in the border, not just in Texas, but everywhere. That's our jobs. That's what we do.
Getting to tell stories and maybe bring a level of justice to some of the people who have reached out to us for the investigative stories.
I don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing every day. Every day is something new, something different.
It's never monotonous. You know, it's a different adventure every day.
I meet so many people, and some people I develop long-term relationships with.
I am challenged mentally, physically, psychologically, all at once.
It's rewarding at the end of the day. It's rewarding for me to see people's stories and know that I helped put it out there.
Welcome to our special, the KSAT Storytellers 2019, the year in video. Photographers, photojournalists, cameramen, camerawomen. They are called so many things, but no matter what you call them, they're vital to the success of any newsroom.
Whether it be print, digital, or television news, we couldn't provide you the online material you find on KSAT.com or give you the roughly 45 hours a week of news content over the air if not for these men and women.
And so tonight we take you behind the lens. We introduce you to our photography staff as they share with us their most memorable stories of 2019. They're going to explain to you the approach and the challenge that they face when putting these stories together and why they love what they do.
Photographers cover a wide range of stories. 1 minute, they can be covering a feel-good story at an elementary school. The next, they can be watching a medical examiner arrive to a crime scene. For the most part, it's all part of the job.
And there are some stories for every photojournalist that can be highly emotional, and they can even stick with them forever. These first two storytellers share stories that they will never forget and how some days can really take an emotional toll.
My name is Joe Herrera. I've been a photog for KSAT for 5 years. So we got to El Paso about 9 o'clock our time. When we got to the scene, it was actually really, really quiet. It was very eerie.
Beyond the ripple of police tape in the breeze, the memorial site is a quiet place. There's no need to speak here, and many don't.
This is my third mass casualty event. The first one was in Dallas, the police shooting. The second one was Sutherland Springs, and this one was El Paso. One thing about those kind of settings is it's eerily quiet. You know that something very chaotic happened hours beforehand. You know, the chaos, the panic, you know, the loss of life. And then it's this eerie, it's just really quiet. That's what it's like when you get to those kinds of scenes. And El Paso is no different. It's really hard. It's really hard to not let your emotions get the best of you. I mean, El Paso specifically, I've got a lot of family in El Paso. I was born in El Paso. So this one was really difficult compared to a lot of the stuff that I've done on the streets.
Just love, that's all.
That's all I have. That's all we have.
Side by side, strangers stand next to each other to take in these messages, many of which may have been meant for the victims and families, but still resonate with the community.
What you do is you focus on the people that are there. There's people there who are mourning. There are people there who are there to stand in solidarity with other survivors, other people who are there to mourn. You know, it's a very sad atmosphere, and you become part of that. You become part of that, and you know, it's your job to capture that as well, while being part of it.
I wrote, "Rest in heaven, blood or not, I still love you."
I think the reason we went with stills is because I kind of felt like it was going to capture the emotion that was being felt at the memorial there that was set up just outside the Walmart parking lot.
While a child's scrawl urges visitors to pray for all the families. God bless.
Makes me appreciate, you know, the friends and family that I have.
Ken Weezer. I've been here at KSAT a little over 8 years. Sutherland Springs, I was working with Max Massey. I just remember everything was like in slow motion. We realized how bad the shooting was. I just remember this one teenager came out from the church and he knelt down about 5 feet from me, and he just knelt down and started praying. He was full of blood, and I didn't want to shoot the video of him, but I had to. That's my job. But I gave him some space. I didn't want to be that vulture.
Nothing can ever erase what David Kolba lived through the morning of November 7th, 2017 at Sutherland Springs Baptist Church.
Initially, I was in the back of the church, and I made my way about halfway up to the front.
A mass shooting that left 26 of his fellow worshipers dead. And for Kolba, part of his pathway to hope meant going back to the site of the massacre to express his anguish through tears.
I came to grips with the building had nothing to do with it, as the gun had nothing to do with it. It was an individual who was sick.
He has fought through trauma and depression, and today,
some of us are still mightily struggling. I will admit that.
He's able to share his experience.
Now, I want to reach out and help people that have helped me, and people that need help, and people as bad as this is that have been through similar situations. I'd like to be able to have an extending hand to them.
And I remember when I went back the year after, there was a little bit of closure. Just seeing a small town like that stick together, it was good. I mean, that's what Texas is, we help each other out.
Coming up, we visit with a photographer that traveled the southern border from Texas to California. And later, we go behind the scenes with one of the many photographers that cover big game coverage Friday night high school football.
Homicides, car crashes, fires, and breaking news. These are just some of the stories that make up the Night Beat, KSAT's final newscast of the day. But these stories that are developing quickly could not be told properly without collaboration. Our next photographer tells us about the reporter-photog relationship and how important that teamwork is in telling the next big story.
My name is Carpio, and I've been a photog at KSAT for 2 years. Shots fired. The night beat is extremely fluid. We come in at about 2 o'clock. When we get in the car right after the 2 o'clock meeting, we hash things out about what potential elements we need on the drive over there. When we get there, we see where the breadcrumbs lead us. And if the story evolves further and further, then we decide to gather more elements during the day as the story progresses. And from that point on, try to see what we have in the available time that we have to put together at least the best story we can tell.
Bro, what the
That was a memorable story because every element of that story that we gathered led to something more compelling. And so as the day progressed, it just seemed like it all kind of snowballed.
But that attempted traffic stop led to a domino effect with traffic delays and multiple crashes. Last night, Sheriff Javier Salazar says it was a chase that was necessary.
When you're letting that vehicle go as an unguided missile,
you're really taking other people's lives into your own hands, and this is going to be handled accordingly.
2 men identified as Mario Mendoza and David Efert arrested on the scene. Salazar adding both had motive to run from authorities.
What it appears at this point is that those two suspects have multiple felony warrants for their arrests.
Felonies relating to possession of drugs and weapons. The sheriff saying his deputies responded accordingly.
We're looking at this to make sure that everything was complied with policy-wise, but preliminarily it appears that our officers just did a great job.
But San Antonio Police Chief Willie McManus disagrees.
Am I angry about it? Yes, I am.
San Antonio Police Officer Ralph Delgado was helping with the traffic in the aftermath when he was hit by a pickup truck and pinned up against a guardrail.
Our officer is lying in the hospital with a terrible, terrible injury to his leg because of a traffic pursuit.
McManus calling out BCSO over their pursuit policy, worried over how quickly things escalated, which put both the public and law enforcement in harm's way.
I understand that BCSO is not that restrictive, and last night's pursuit was an indication of that.
When asked whether he thought a TV crew riding along with the BCSO deputies during the chase played a factor in why it continued, he had this to say.
Let me be very direct in my answer. The answer is yes, I do.
And when it comes to the safety of the public and his officers, McManus isn't afraid to voice his concerns. He's already spoken to Salazar, a discussion he says needed to happen.
The conversation we had last night was one that we both needed to have, or at least I did.
The U.S.-Mexico border. We have told you many stories from Texas border cities. If you remember, we did a special last year called The Line. No matter your stance on what should be done at the actual border, we can all agree the issues there are important and need to be told. Photojournalist Jennifer Galvan, who is from the Rio Grande Valley and covered many stories on the border, tells us about a new experience traveling from Texas to California along the line.
My name is Jennifer Galvan. I have been at KSAT for a year and a half. We started in Brownsville, Texas, which is actually my hometown. Living there, I don't think I ever saw it firsthand.
Everybody's close. I got 5 on the ground here.
While on a ride along with Border Patrol, things quickly escalate. Agents called for backup after spotting a group of people crossing into the United States illegally. As we arrive to the area, we see a man jump into the brush. As Border Patrol agent Marcelino Medina heads towards the back, the man walks out of the brush towards us.
Actually going and doing stories with Border Patrol and having to run out of a Border Patrol car and with my giant camera and just capture, this person. You don't know where these people are going. I don't know where these people are now. I captured their faces and their feelings and all these things, and I have no idea where they are now. And I don't know, it just gets to me.
The ACLU tells us a total of 4 billboards are placed in McAllen, 2 in Spanish and 2 in English. Their message is clear: families belong together.
They're very important stories to tell, just so people know what's going on. We have an obligation to let people know what's going on, and not just in the border, not just in Texas, but everywhere. That's our jobs. That's what we do.
She crosses from Ciudad Juarez through a port of entry to get to school. After a full day of learning,
and I go to work at 4:30.
We drove all the way to San Diego, California.
In Sunland Park, New Mexico, is a 29-foot tall limestone statue of Christ.
I love meeting new people, getting to know, just going out and getting to experience everything that the job has to offer. My job is consistent, but it's different in content because every story is different. I get to meet incredible people. I get to tell their stories, and that's what I love about my job.
My name is RJ Marcus. I've been with KSAT for 9.5 years, and my title is Digital Journalist.
Xochimilco is a historic waterway system used by the Aztecs to connect settlements in the Valley of Mexico.
The trip to Mexico was an amazing experience. I took care of a lot of the pictures, the slideshows, shooting additional B-roll to really kind of enhance the stories that we put not only on air but on our website. The digital side is extremely important because it is a way for people to go more in depth with all of our content. When we put stories online, we look for a long form type of storytelling, so that is very important for people to kind of see different angles, different versions of the stories. Being able to tell the stories of Day of the Dead through our digital platforms, through social media, was absolutely essential and crucial to me. I love the fact that every day you get to experiment and every day you get to try different things, and that there are no borders here at KSAT, and hopefully that our viewers get to see that from all of our coverage on all of our platforms.
Natural sound, it can tell a story all on its own, and sometimes it can actually be more powerful than the video itself.
These next stories are examples of how important sound is. Though there are reporter tracks with 2 of the stories, the sounds are what helps pull you, the viewer, into the story. It's another tool in the Storyteller's tool bag.
My name is Robert Samaron Jr. I have been at KSAT for 4 years. Someone mentioned that there's a police officer that on his spare time opened up a boxing gym on the west side. He allows the kids in the neighborhood to come in and they pay roughly 40 bucks, something cheap. It's pretty affordable. Stories like this, I mean, boxing, I usually think, there's gonna be a lot of nets. There's gonna be a lot of sound. I start thinking about how I'm gonna get that into the story to make you feel like you were there. I'm trying to gather the most interesting shots and sounds. I get my mic up close to the bag because I want to hear things that I can listen to later in the edit and throw in as little sprinkled gnat sound, just something to fill it out, make you feel a little more like you're there.
It helps me just to get my stress out or anything. Like, it clears my mind. Like, I don't have to think about anything when I'm in the gym.
It's what Juan Cardona intended when he opened up this gym on the corner of North Colorado and Morales Streets 2 years ago.
It helps just because, I mean, if they don't have anywhere to go, they're going to be out in the streets causing trouble. Just hitting the bags helps them with their anger.
The Westside Gym owner and San Antonio Park police officer has become a mentor to kids with dreams of making a big dent in the boxing world and others who just need a safe place.
We try to teach them respect, how to respect others. That's where it starts.
An important task, he says, as the number of teens involved in serious crimes is on the rise.
They find themselves hanging out with the wrong crowd, getting in trouble, committing crimes, and getting a criminal record.
Officers want to challenge the community to get in the ring and do something about it.
Go and volunteer. If you don't have volunteer, donate to some of these organizations that are trying to invest in these kids. But what I would love to see is more men rise up in our community. Be that father figure for a lot of these kids. They don't have a father in their life.
School counselors have called to thank Cardona for helping guide troubled kids on the right path.
I mean, give them discipline and a little bit of tough love.
Amazing Vermeer.
Why do you look like a purple? Who is that?
I've been here for 4 years. And I do GMSA. Okay.
Crews have been working through the night and into this morning.
I think it was 4:30 in the morning. Crews were out clearing the roadways. But I went ahead and just shot as much as I could. I saw a lot of repetition, and I realized it sets up great for sequencing. Capitalize on all the gnats from the saw cutting through the branch. The branches breaking, the sweeping, even so much as the claw grabbing the branch and scraping along the asphalt. I was really proud of this story, actually. It had both good visuals, good sound, and solid stand-up.
Crews have been working through the night and into this morning, using everything from chainsaws to large-scale cranes to rip, sweep, and remove debris from the roads, trying to make them drivable. Here on Camden early this morning, city workers getting this tree out of the roadway so local patients could get to this clinic and get to their dialysis appointments.
A lot of water on the floor. That seems to drained out quite a bit.
So I'm very blessed. Could have been a lot worse.
In other parts of the city, local businesses feeling the impacts of these storms. Dan Lee tells us his company's roof was ripped right off the top of the building.
I think the straight line winds got a hold of the lip and just rolled it right off from the west to the east.
Driving by, you might just think this is a heap of scrap metal, but if you look at the bigger picture, you can see it's a billboard that was toppled over. Yesterday's wind gusts of more than 50 miles per hour, so strong, it knocked this billboard off of its already rusted base. It didn't land on anything, and no one was hurt. In fact, it just missed this church by inches. As for Dan and so many in and around San Antonio today, they just want to know when they can get their electricity back on and when they can get back to normal.
So I don't know how long it's going to take us to get this thing.
I'm Bill Caldera. I've been at KSAT for 16 years. So I shoot a little bit of everything here at KSAT. I get to do some news and some weather, but I also do a lot of sports. And travel all over the country to cover the Cowboys. You meet a lot of interesting people and you get to tell important stories. So the way the mariachi package came about was my assignment editor sent me down to Main Plaza to cover a different story.
Eric Cooper, E-R-I-C-C-O-O-P-E-R, President CEO, San Antonio Food Bank. You know, today is the opening.
While I was there, the mariachi students were there playing the music, and the original story was delayed for an hour, so I ended up shooting a lot of the students just playing their music. I kind of like to let the people tell their story in their own words.
This is the true heart of the city, Main Plaza.
I'm about to go Facebook Live. We're ready? Mariachi Corazón de San Antonio.
In the United States, mariachi capital is San Antonio, Texas. Mariachi Corazón and Main Plaza go amazingly well together.
I didn't think that this was going on today. And I saw the music instruments, the costumes, and I said, uh-oh, I'm ready for some music.
We usually play at Main Plaza, like it says on our moños, because Main Plaza is our home. It's an all-star group, and it consists of only high school kids. People come from all over, different schools, different districts, to come and compete, to win a spot in our group, and only the best of the best are able to play with us.
They are the most prestigious high school group in San Antonio. Our rehearsals are intense.
She can be tough. When I first entered, she was definitely tough on us, only because she wanted to bring out the best in us. In 1 month, we're required to learn, let's say, like 12 different musics. And it's not some easy music, it's concert music, and it's very difficult.
They do everything like an all-state orchestra or choir or symphony does. It's street opera. They do everything that they do, only they're memorized and standing up. And they are true ambassadors for the city of San Antonio.
I get to share my talent. I get to sing to people like. It's my job, and it's amazing that I get to do what I love every day.
Yeah, I love it.
As photographers and reporters, we are all allotted the opportunity to spotlight positive things in the community as well as issues. We bring attention to these things in hopes of bringing about change.
For example, KSAT's Homeless Special, bringing awareness to the ongoing problem that is homelessness and some of the people that have been affected. Now, we as a news organization are also here to hold people accountable, and that's where our Defenders team comes in.
These next photographers played a role in telling the story of the homeless in San Antonio, and the third photographer you will meet is part of the Defenders team.
Hi, I'm Luis Cienfuegos. Been at KSAT for 14 years.
I'm Dale Keller. I'm the senior photographer here at KSAT, and I've been here over 30 years.
If you want, you can turn off the light and see how dark it is.
So how do you know where you're going?
Just follow the light. You feel your way down.
It was one of the more difficult stories to shoot, mostly because we were in odd places. We were underground, we were under bridges, we were in the mud, we were in the dirt.
We didn't know what we were going to expect. It was kind of roll with the punches like we always do in the news.
How long have you been down here?
About 2 months.
What led you
down? Drugs. We get candle, light it up, and let the wax drip on it. And then we'll just light it, and there's our torch for us to see.
You don't want to be down here. Do you?
I mean, there's nowhere to go. This is my home. This is all I got.
Yeah, it was a matter of we're crawling in 3-foot culverts to get down underground. We were shooting, it was, about 12 feet under the city, pitch black, and we didn't want it to look like a studio lighting, so we lit in such a ways to make it look natural, which was a challenge. And staying out of each other's shots was kind of hard too sometimes. But we had good people to talk to, interesting subject matters, and it all worked out.
How did you find this place?
Through a friend of mine.
What do you say?
He goes, hey, if you need a place to crash, I got you. I thought he had a place for us to go, like a regular house.
That's where you get your water.
Yep.
What do people need to know about being homeless in San Antonio?
Survive.
Jacob, tell me what you guys are doing.
We're making palm crosses. We started this 3 years ago because we got tired of being treated some type of way.
We were driving around town. It was just me and Dell, and well, let's go see what we can find. And sure enough, Dell spots this couple, and we were by a Starbucks, and it's like, you know what, I'm gonna get off. I gotta go talk to him. I was like, are you sure? And he just took, his instincts just took him there and went straight to them, talked to them. And I stayed in the car. I'm like, I'm gonna wait to see what's gonna happen. So I waited. Sure enough, he waved me down. He's like, come on, they're ready. Then we're gonna talk to them.
One day I was talking to one of my friends, and his little girl goes to both of us. We're at the dollar store, panhandling. As we were panhandling, she goes to both of us and says, Daddy, didn't God create you? Didn't she create me? Why are you sitting here asking for change? Why don't you create something? At that moment in time is the reason why I started doing this each and every day.
Yeah, I think you found, and I found too, that they just want their stories told. I mean, they want to be treated like human beings. I think we even asked him, talked about what is it like for people who won't look you in the eye when you're on a street corner, and he said it hurt them, and they just want to be, treated like everybody else. What was unique is in this documentary, probably 80 to 85% of it was unscripted. There was no track. It was pure storytelling and old school storytelling.
They gave us the liberty to do what we needed to do, and we took full advantage of it.
We have a homeless guy that we just met.
What did you describe me as the very first thing?
I don't know, what did I say?
A homeless man. I got a homeless man here. I got a homeless man.
You didn't like that?
Who would?
You think you have a home?
Who would?
How would you describe yourself?
How? I have a home. My home is the same as your home. In his home, in his home, in his home. You know what I call that home? Planet Earth. Yeah, that's my home.
Okay.
I don't have an address.
We talk to everybody like we always do, just down to earth and be humble and just respect them and don't see them as homeless. Just, treat them like you want to be treated.
How is this one different from your normal everyday assignments that you guys have?
I don't know if it's so much different. I mean, because I think you approach every story the same way. You're trying to tell a story. You're trying to bring out personalities, humanize, and I kind of approach it the same way.
We just wanted to tell their story and get their side, and wanted to see what it is to be homeless, and wanted to feel, and we wanted to hit home, and that's what we did.
Joshua Saunders. I've been a photog at KSAT for about 5 years.
I had a problem.
This is Jerry Clark's 6th try at a normal life.
I've gone to multiple clinics over time.
His 6th attempt at staying off heroin.
This is one of the first things I shot here. Drugs, the spoon, and heating it up and all that. And I was shooting it in the conference room, and nobody knew me yet. Frank walked by, and he saw me with a lighter lighting up his spoon in there. He just about himself. This, I actually saw them across the parking lot as we were leaving for the day. There she is, there she is. And you see Dylan go in a dead sprint.
Minutes after swearing in, you're running from the media.
Well, we're supposed to call those unscheduled interviews, but
We showed up to her public swearing in New Year's Day. A husband who weeks earlier avoided us now wanted to get up close and personal as his wife tried to leave the event using a back stairwell.
You get people outside their comfort zones when you're doing these, obviously.
Do not touch me. She's an elected official.
So what?
Josh,
She has no comment. You never really know what to expect.
Ma'am, do not touch our camera. Do not touch our camera.
You got to go into that situation with the camera always rolling, always be ready for the unexpected. 100 different things could happen.
He had the crews in and out. I mean, everything was fine and dandy. I says, wow.
But after paying Bulk Construction more than $100,000 last year to expand her Guadalupe County business, progress turned to a standstill and eventually an abandoned job.
Many sleepless nights.
Ms. Hernandez dreamed of doubling the size of her clinic. Instead, her frustration doubled after subcontractors came forward and said they'd completed work for Josh Bulk but had not been paid.
I don't think he should be allowed in our county. It's disgusting. It's disturbing.
Troy Jones and her partner bought this 1.33 acres in scenic Spring Branch, then gave Bulk access to $347,000 to build them a custom home. A year later, another contractor has been brought in to fix Bulk's faulty craftsmanship, and the couple has had to pay off 4 subs who did work, but again, were never paid by Bulk.
It can take several weeks to several months to put together a story. That's just the research part of it. As far as the shooting and editing, I've got a little longer to put stories together, so I consider that an opportunity to think outside the box a little bit as far as documents and any other kind of graphics we want to use. It can be challenging sometimes. Our stories are very document heavy, so it can be a challenge to think of new creative ways to show these documents to the viewers.
His support of his wife's fledgling political career is unquestioned. Public records show Bulk Construction poured in over $30,000 to Linda Bulk's district clerk campaign. Some contributions made shortly after he took draws from the construction account for the Spring Branch home. Linda Bulk won the election in a runoff in late May.
We had a gentleman come to us. He was a recovering heroin addict, and he was going to this methadone clinic. And he reached out to us because every day he'd come out of this place and there was people dealing drugs in the lot. We did a stakeout on this place for about a week. It was fish in a barrel. Every day we'd go out there. I wouldn't have to wait 5 minutes and you'd see the same vehicles approaching the same people, just dealing drugs right out of their car. We went to another clinic in town. Did you see they've got cameras, they had a security guard, they had none of these issues.
The on-again, off-again dance with the needle has occupied Clark's life for more than 2 decades. So now he's using the treatment called methadone to get clean. But from his very first step out the door at this Westside Medmark Methadone Treatment Center, there's been a problem. Clark says the loitering you see is often drugs being sold right in front of the very place people seek out to conquer their addiction.
Now you leave, somebody's there to give you, offer you something.
For example, he says,
people turn to Xanax, because when you take Xanax with methadone, it almost recreates that exact feeling of the heroin.
On a Thursday at Medmark, we saw it for ourselves. As our undercover cameras were rolling, the driver of this gold Hyundai crisscrossed the parking lot for the better part of 2 hours, interacting with one patient after another as they finished treatments at the clinic off Military Drive. Between February 28th and March 7th, our cameras captured the same people and same cars lingering outside the clinic for most of the morning. What could management possibly do to stop loitering and drug dealing in front of their business? maybe hire a security guard. Clark says he's begged MedMark staff to do just that for more than a year. The idea has occurred to others.
People, places, and things are big triggers.
Including Chris Lopez, an addiction counselor at New Season, which sees hundreds of patients a day at its methadone treatment center on the west side. To combat loitering there, staff hired a security guard and implemented a 3-minute rule. Patients have 3 minutes to leave the parking lot after taking their medication.
We have all types of people coming here. We have attorneys, we have gang members, we have people that are in active addiction. And if they're loitering out front, it might cause somebody to have another issue.
MedMark, meanwhile, seem to have a bigger issue with our presence. You got people dealing drugs as soon as folks walk out of their treatments.
Okay. Right in front of your place.
Right in front of your place.
Okay, but he can be recording.
It's a public parking lot.
Our next photojournalist spends most of his time in court with Paul Venema, and if you spend most of your time with Venema, you'll find yourself also spending time with Willie Nelson, 3 times for photographer Misael Gomez, and he explains what it's like to film the legend.
And we hear from one of our overnight veteran photographers that starts his day at 4 a.m. every single day. He also shoots KSAT series while you were sleeping. Here's his favorite story from that series.
Hi, my name is Tim Stewart. I have been a photographer here at KSAT. I'm coming up on 22 years. Working GMSA, we get a lot of breaking news and spot news, and that means car crashes and house fires and stuff that's worse than that. It can be depressing a little bit, but at the same time, you know, we get to do the feature stuff, and the while you were sleeping gives us a little bit of respite and something to look forward to every week. While You Were Sleeping was Katrina's idea. She had this thought that why don't we show our viewers what other people are doing in the middle of the night? This one I really enjoyed doing because I had never been on one of the carriages downtown. As with any good story, it's made by the character. The lady that was our carriage driver was a wonderful character, and just the video I thought was beautiful. Just the glowing lights against the night sky.
The sound takes you back to days gone by.
Easy. Rusty.
And if you're riding with this horse known as Rusty, it's bound to be a slow, easy trip.
Rusty has no sense of urgency. This is the speed he likes to go. He does not like to hurry unless there's food involved.
After 2.5 years, his human partner, Jackie Verna, is used to it. They carry nighttime sightseers in Cinderella style.
I love meeting people from all over the world, which I have. I love to be out here at night.
It was her lifelong love of horses, though, that put her in the driver's seat for the Yellow Rose and HRH Carriage Company.
Excuse me, you know how old the moon is? Yes, sir. Next building down.
She plays guide to tourists while steering Rusty through downtown. Usually in the wee hours, they head for their final destination.
Well, this carriage doesn't exactly turn back into a pumpkin at midnight, but when it gets late, Rusty has to go to bed. And believe it or not, there's a whole lot that goes into getting him ready.
Back at the barn, first up is releasing Rusty from the reins.
Watch out.
Then letting down his hair.
Easy.
A refreshing bath follows. Then it's time for dinner. Werner, meanwhile, is working harder than ever.
There you go. Come on. Good boy. I think you can ask any driver down here. It's almost like a passion of ours. You've got to love this job.
Finally, it's time for both to relax.
We're done for the night, and that's kind of, come on, baby.
But for Verna, done doesn't mean it's time to doze. She prefers to stay awake while others are sleeping, then hit the hay later on.
Misael Gomez, and I have been a photog at KSAT for 32 years.
Still moving to me. And I swim like a fish in the sea all the time.
We cover Willie Nelson at least twice a year. I usually cover courts with Paul Venema.
That testimony simply isn't credible, the defense argued. They called it a deal with the devil.
We cover everything from intoxication, manslaughter, to murders, to capital murders.
He is a killer.
We get to see a lot of the cases that you see and you hear about every day on the street. We get to see them play out in court, and a lot of times we even get to meet the family members and we see the whole full story behind what happened.
What's going on?
Paul Venema has a special relationship with Willie.
How you doing? I'm doing well.
dates back to 40 years. They are very close. They text each other. They talk to each other very frequently. And when Willie's on the road, he calls Paul. It's a lot of fun. We get to go to his house, his ranch near Austin, and we get to hang out with him for the whole day. It's just amazing how he makes you feel very down to earth. He offers you a cup of coffee. He wants to sit down and chat. Just ordinary guy that you meet every day. On that particular story, we ended up doing a little bit more. We ended up going to see the horses, drive around and see the ranch, because Willie was in a mood to show us the ranch that he lives at.
A world away from the stage, a steering wheel instead of a guitar in hand, Willie Nelson took me on a drive through a place he loves, his 700-acre chunk of the Texas Hill Country. He calls his ranch luck and likes to say, when you're here, you're in luck, and when you're not here, you're out of luck. 70 or so horses he's rescued roam the ranch.
Going right up the top and look at them?
Yeah. On our way to see the horses, Willie shares a memory or two.
I used to have an old teepee down
I
there.
remember that. You showed it to me one time.
Yeah, the wind blew it down.
Willie has been rescuing horses for many years. They were bound for slaughterhouses.
My horses are probably the luckiest horses in the world. They get hand-fed twice a day, and they were just ready to go to the slaughter, the last thing they remembered. So they're happy horses.
Willie recently included his love for horses in his music. He played me a song from his latest album, a song that features horses.
I wish I could gather up all your brothers and you would just ride me back home.
Everybody get coffee?
Always a gracious host, an offer for a cup of coffee is always part of our visits here. Visits that usually include talk about his decades of life on the road.
It's a lot of traveling and a lot of being away from home, but that's what we do.
You can watch more Willie Nelson stories and other KSAT specials with the KSAT TV app on your streaming device.
That makes me want to step up there and kick the Giants' for them real good.
They work odd hours, late nights, and they travel a lot. Our sports photojournalists here at KSAT 12 News work very hard to make sure you get the highlights and the post-game reactions from your favorite Texas teams.
And at KSAT, we pride ourselves in bringing you the most coverage of high school football in the area. So we decided to let you see what a typical Friday night during high school football season looks like in this next story.
And after that, our Mark Mendez is giving you an inside look and an insightful look at Missions baseball.
My name's Adam Higgins. I've been a photographer here at KSAT 12 for 12 years. Friday nights, big in Texas. I have 3 games to be hitting up Jerry Comalander Stadium, Alamo Heights, SAISD Sports Complex. Get to that first game. All right, so what I'm doing now is taking a picture of the roster, and we're gonna send that back to the sports producer. I want to get a touchdown from at least one of the teams, feed that stuff back, and then on to the next one. I'm trying to get just all the games in most efficient as possible. Always gonna be ready to hustle. Third down comes, they don't convert. Gotta get down there before the punt gets off. You want them coming at you at all times, so gotta get in front of the ball. Give them an update. Tell them we got a touchdown from Madison. Score is 7-0. He said good. Off to the next one. And now we're on our way to Alamo Heights. Get there to the second game as fast as possible. I have a 10-yard Alamo Heights touchdown. They lead 21-14. Head on out. Off to the next one. And this is how we send stuff back to the station now. their hot spots. Before we get to the next game, we are going to send this stuff back so they can start working on it back downtown. We're going to start with cutaway, just some of the fans out there cheering and stuff. Just something for Greg to kind of intro the video, saying, hey, here at Alamo Heights.
To Orem Stadium, where fans got to see a good one between Alamo Heights and Lockhart.
All right, so when I'm shooting the games, I normally shoot the scoreboard first, just so I always have a frame of reference as to where the ball is, play, down, time, so they know back at the station.
So we're in the fourth quarter, Cap is up 10-0.
And that is the Alamo Heights game. Ready to send back. Hey Greg, I have Breckenridge touchdown.
Breckenridge Eagles came calling on the Lanier Vokes tonight, District 13-5A. Third quarter, should they Brack on the attack. Quarterback Julian Camarón finds Carlos Camargo for the inside screen, the 9-yard touchdown, 12-0 lead at the time.
That's a look at our typical Friday night for us photographers during big game coverage. Mark Mendez has a look inside the Missions clubhouse now.
My name is Mark Mendez. I've been at KSAT 25 years. These are just some of my credentials over the past 25 years. I also have a couple of more hundred in the bag over here. You work crazy hours, you work on holidays, you work on weekends, you work on nights. You only have that one opportunity for that play to happen, that touchdown, that basket, that home run. Like when people go to games, they're there as a fan, we're there covering it as an event. You're kind of recording history, or you're recording what happened to that day in sports. We did a story about the clubbies, and the clubbies are these guys that do all the prep work before the game, like mudding the balls, sewing the jerseys, if they have any tears or whatever in them. They do different things for the clubhouse, like set out the food, and we follow these guys around. And one of them makes Gatorade with all these different pouches. And when you go to a baseball game, you see the pitcher and the catcher and the infield and outfield, and that's all you pretty much think about. You don't realize that there's a whole nother operation going on to get those guys out there and get those guys ready for a game.
San Diego had the best saying, we'll provide everything you need besides heart to play the game.
From creature comforts like seeds and bubble gum to necessities like laundry, clubhouse managers are quite literally the threads that hold a team together.
Typical home day starts about 8 a.m. to go do all the shopping for everything you see out there as far as drinks, spreads, Red Bull, whatever they need.
Clubbies like Jason Schweinsberg, aka 8-Ball, are stars behind the scenes, working long hours to ensure the needs of players and coaches are met.
Luckily, I have a very understanding wife, as does most of these coaches and players, and I mean, it's just not me, but yes, we have spring training, so like this year, we started in February and we're going all the way until, October. All day, every day. I think my wife likes it better only because I'm not home.
No clubbie is a stranger to long work days, but few have a passion for their job quite like Jimmy Botero, or Jimmy B as he's known around the park. It's a passion that even spreads to small tasks, like making Gatorade.
So I gauge it out based on years and years of experience. You know what I'm saying? And smelling it, just
It's a special mix with a special message, all designed to bring home wins.
I'm doing it, I like to just think positive things. That's where the Jimmy B8 comes from. This is where we put in the secret ingredient, I feel like a lot of what baseball entails is a mind change. It's all in the mind sometimes.
So for all the work that goes into this job, just why do guys like 8-Ball and Jimmy B do it?
I tried to work a 9-to-5 job, and I feel that's a lot harder than what this job is. Just the freedom, being around the guys, it's like having a family away from your family.
We hope you enjoyed getting to know some of the men and women that help to tell the stories you see here on KSAT. These storytellers work hard to bring you meaningful and informative stories on a daily basis, along with the other women and men behind the scenes here in the newsroom.
And here at KSAT, we pride ourselves on working hard to bring you the reliable and the accurate news you've come to expect. So thank you so much for joining us, and have a great new year in 2020.